Hey, how's it going? Ronin here. All right, so I got asked a lot of times to make a video about investments, crypto, money, and basically that kind of thing, saving money, making money, getting wealthy. And I really hesitated to make this one, but I just feel like maybe it was the GameStop thing. I don't know what it was, but the barrage of questions, I realized that it's a very important issue. And a lot of the emails I got, the private emails, made me realize that a lot of people didn't have a base of knowledge that I think is very important these days. And I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you financial advice in this, but I will tell you my experience. And I do have a lot of experience. And I will detail that. Everything from investment banking, real estate, to getting into crypto early, to, as you probably know, starting and owning companies, and also my character flaws. You know, the things that stopped me from reaching goals that I had and heights that I had, and also how I overcame them. So it's kind of like it's a combination of things. And I want to it's going to be a long one. So, get your cup of coffee or whatever it is that, you want to, makes you relax. And here we go. Okay. So yeah, I mean, like right now, everybody's interested in investments. Stock market's high, real estate market is high, and crypto is high. What should you do? How do you start? What do you think? What should you do in today's economy? We know that the dollar could easily crash. There's a lot of debt. Globally, there's a lot of debt. But there's always a lot of debt. I mean, debt is, it's something that it's part of the modern economy. You see massive debt in Japan especially. But I guess what I'm saying with that one is be careful of conspiracy theories. And this is a general rule here. Basically, I want to give you in this episode as much good information as I possibly can. And I'm not selling anything here, okay? I'm just trying to give you as much good information as I've learned and to weave it together in a way that will allow you to see the world of investing, finance, money in a different way that's much more helpful for you. Because there's just so many people right now taking advantage, selling what I consider scams, in my value system, I would consider that a lot of things that people are selling these days as scams. And so let me go, and this is going to be, I'm going to wander all over the place with this one because I tried to make notes a million times, and there's just so much information that it's kind of impossible for me to. I could put this into a book if I spent a couple of years, but I just don't want to do that. So I'm going to give you the same information, and it will be a little bit disorganized. Okay. So let's start with money. Okay. So saving money, the basics of saving money. Okay. So how do you start investing? The way that you start is you need some money to invest, right? And how do you get some money to invest? What do? Very simple. The best way, historically, whatever, is to save a certain amount of money per month. So, we as humans, we get used to whatever we're doing. So, there's people right now that are used to the lockdown. People that live in cities, they, over time, got used to not living in forests, right? It's just something that happens with humans. So, for example, if you make, let's say you make, I don't know, depends on where you are, right? Say you make 3 million yen a year in Japan, or you make, $30,000 in the U.S., 30,000 euros in over in Europe, and so you feel like you don't have any money. You feel like you're just broke, Okay, so where do you start? First thing you got to understand is that your mind, it's basically like work will expand to take the time allotted. That's an old quote. I don't know, I probably butchered it, but you get the idea. It's same with money. So whatever you have, you're going to spend. You're going to find ways it's going to become necessary for you to spend whatever it is that you make. That's human nature. So the way that you beat that is that you take the money away from yourself, basically. So say you make $30,000 a year, and let's say that you have, I don't know how much after tax, let's just say $24,000. So you have $24,000 a year, and what you do is you take 10% of that, $2,400, 2,400 euros, 2.4 million yen, and you put that aside. So you take it every month and you just take the money out. It's like taxes, except you're taxing yourself. So you take that money out, put it into another account, someplace that's not easy to reach, okay? And what will happen is a miracle. A fucking miracle will happen. Because 1 minute you felt totally poor and you wanted more money and you felt like it was never enough. And now you have 10% less, but you feel the same way. That's how it works, right? It's not like you feel great, but what happens is you just find yourself getting by somehow. And what you'll do is you'll cut out certain things, or you'll start to reuse certain things, or maybe you'll start to buy used clothes or whatever it is to get that extra 10%. But you're going to find, very much to your surprise, is that it's actually not that difficult. Like, it's just not that difficult because you've always had more money than you needed. And this works whether you make $100,000, $1 million, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, you will find ways to spend it. And so this rule of saving a certain percentage and putting that money aside is absolutely key. So what most people try to do when they want to save money is they think, oh, I got to save money fast, right? I can save 50% of my money. You know what I mean? I can it's the same as the guy who says like New Year's Eve, he's like going to go to the gym. He's going to he's just going to kill it every single day. And then he finds himself never getting in shape, right? Money it's just so, you really you need principles. That's the fucking key with money. You need fucking solid principles. And saving 10% is one of those. It's absolutely gold. Now, that leads to the second golden principle. And this is like fucking awesome. Is that assets go up and down in value. Okay? And humans are very emotional about money. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, this is like a natural thing for us. When Bitcoin goes from, let's say, $57,000 down to $20,000, people totally freak out, okay? But that freaking out does not help you with investing. So how do you beat, just like I told you, the simple way to beat your human nature when it comes to money, by kind of taking that money away from yourself before you can spend it, putting it into a difficult to reach place that you can't just, you just can't just grab it and use it, right? So your impulse is under control. It's the same with buying things and selling things, is that they're going to go up and down in value, and you will overestimate. This is human nature. You're going to, and I mean everybody, I mean me, you, every single person listening, you're going to overestimate your ability to time the market. You're going to think that you know what's going to happen in the future. The problem is you don't, and I don't. So nobody knows the future. So how do you make money on investments when you don't even know what the fuck is going on, right? The way you do it is, again, it's with a rock solid principle, okay? And that is called dollar cost averaging, okay? So dollar cost averaging, it goes hand in hand with saving money, 10% or 15% or 20%, whatever you can do. Just don't go overboard, right? It's not 10%, it's not a magic number. 10% is where you start, right? I've always found I could save more than that, more than 10%. But so what do you do? So now every month you have a bit of money, okay? And I don't care if you're in India and you make $10 a year, now you have $1, okay? So you save the dollar. So the principle works no matter how much you make. That's what I want to make that point. So now you have a little bit of money. Now, you want to invest that money. So I guess human nature is going to want to save the money and then put it all into something when you know it's going to go up and you're like going to make a ton of money. That's not a good idea. And also that's for two reasons. One reason is that you're going to be wrong most of the time. And the second thing is that you're going to waste a lot of time and energy. So one of my kind of fundamental principles as you watch my cooking is to do things that don't use principles so that you don't have to think, so that you can just automate it. You can just get it done and you can just automate it, become wealthy. That's essentially what I'm talking about. If you put all these principles together, it's the closest thing to that, okay? So what do you do? You have this little bit of money. Now, where do you put it? That's the key. So you have to decide that. Okay, that's. I'm going to talk about that later in this episode. But once you have established that, let's say that you want to put money into crypto, you want to put money into, whatever it is, you got various things you want to put money into, right? Once you decide what that is, okay, it could be, let's say, S&P 500 mirroring funds. That's a very good choice, by the way. S&P 500 mirroring funds, and I'll go into that later, why that's such a great choice. Again, it's based on principles. Okay, so let's just say, for example, just wild here, you want to put in 30% into crypto, and you've chosen your coin, and we're going to talk about that too. And then you want to put 70% into S&P 500 mirroring funds. Okay, so first thing you want to do is the S&P is the Standard & Poor's index, so it doesn't change. It doesn't matter if you buy a mutual fund or a mirroring fund with a very high fee structure or a very low fee structure, it's underneath it is the same. Okay, it's exactly the same. So what I recommend is finding the lowest fee structure that mirrors the S&P 500. Okay, so you choose that particular mutual fund, okay, and then you have your crypto that you've decided which coin you want. And that's going to go 30% and 70%. So what you do is every month, whatever it is that you have, okay, whatever it is that you have after, your savings, your 10%, 15%, 20%, and you put 30% into one thing and you put 70% in the other. Now, what you don't do, and this is the key thing, is you are not checking prices. You are not looking at a screen all day. You are not losing sleep. You are not losing your mind. And you are taking advantage of a very fundamental principle, which is taking emotion out of investing. So you kind of beat everything with this one. That's why it's such a great principle. Dollar cost averaging means you buy the same amount every month, regardless of the price. So if Bitcoin goes to 25 cents, you're going to, for example, let's say you're buying Bitcoin with your 30%. And that's just a random number. I just made that up, 30% of your 10%. Let's just say, you're going to put your 30 cents of a dollar into Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin is $57,000 and it goes down to $20,000. Doesn't matter. You're going to put in that 30 cents into Bitcoin that month. And S&P 500 goes to an all-time high or whatever it is, and you don't even care. You just set it up like automated. It goes into that. Next month, Bitcoin is now, $10,000. And you have 30 cents, you put into Bitcoin, and you put your 70 cents into the S&P 500 mirroring fund that you chose, right? This way of saving and this way of investing is, I cannot tell you the power behind these. There's a lot of principles here that are at work, but you don't really need to understand them actually to benefit from them. The same as when you eat the right foods, you don't really need to understand why those foods are good for you. The key thing is that you're putting those food in your body, and then now you go out about and live your life, right? So that's what I'm talking about there. Now, so those are the fundamentals. So now you have, if you implement this and you basically tax yourself. So before the money comes in, you tax yourself. Now you have a little bit of money, and you learn to live with whatever 90% is. And believe me, it's just a miracle how it happens. You will not believe it. You'll think, no, I can't do it. It won't work. And then when you force yourself to do it, you're going to be like 3 months later, you'll be like, wow, that was easy. It's the weirdest thing. I swear to God, it's the weirdest thing. And also, as you start to save money, okay, as your money goes, you start to save more money and invest more money, which is almost automated at this point, you will start to get a confidence in yourself. And I mean that. I mean, like, I don't care, again, if you're the guy living in poverty on the streets of India, you saved $1 every month, every year, and now you've got $10, and your expenses are very low, you will start to get a confidence. You're going to be like, I don't know what it is. It's a combination of having some money, okay, and also knowing that that money is there because you did it. Your willpower, your wisdom allowed you to keep that money separate and to invest that money. And it gives you a confidence. I cannot describe it. It's a very solid kind of confidence. Like you just feel like, when that feeling when you're just doing the right thing, you're like, fuck yeah, I am on the right road here. Okay? And you continue on that road. Now, that confidence, what does that lead to? Confidence leads to, again, you don't have that nervousness. You don't have that questioning yourself. You don't have that doubt. You don't have that, like living on the edge. So what happens is you do start to make better decisions. You might, very common to find new ways to make money because now you see the value of making money. Because until now, no matter how much you made, it didn't really fucking matter because all you did was buy more shit. And now you have more shit around you, which most guys on this podcast, like, I suspect the girls too, like, you almost start to hate your own stuff after a while. So there's not a real motivation to make more money. But when you start to invest, and when no matter how small it is, your confidence will rise. And you will start to see, I swear, I cannot explain this one, but I tell you from experience, you will start to see the world as an investor, as a man of power. I swear, it's the weirdest thing. Because everything is in comparison to where you were before, right? And also you'll start to look at other people who are just buying things with all their money, thinking that they don't have enough money. And then you're like, wow, they could easily save 10%. And you can see it, but they can't see it, right? So this is kind of a private journey, okay? This is just inside your own mind, inside your own head. Okay, so let's see what else. Already we've hit some major principles. If you just implement those things right there, damn son, you really have done something, okay? So I didn't expect to get this much good stuff out this fast. Okay, so let's talk about crypto a bit. I want to talk about crypto. Okay, so I got involved in crypto early, just by pure chance. Not pure chance, because I was interested in crypto. I was very interested in crypto, but there's many things I'm interested in that I don't actually do. So, that is not the best marker for me. But anyway, I was very interested in crypto, and I was in Tokyo, and it was after I left China. I was in Tokyo, and I had looked online, and there was a Bitcoin meetup. I was very interested in going to that. So I had planned on it, but I don't know, in my mind, I wasn't quite sure if I was going to find the place or where it was, which is funny because I totally knew the building after I went there. But anyway, I met a friend of mine, and we were talking, and he said, what are you going to do tonight? I said, well, I'm going to go to this Bitcoin meetup. He goes, no way. He goes, I'm going. He's like, I'm one of the main members. I'm like, really? I'm like, that's amazing. So let's go. So we went, and he introduced me to everybody, got a very nice introduction, which at the time was pretty key because anytime you have people on the cutting edge of anything, they don't like losers or time wasters, right? And I had already been vetted because I was, friends with this guy who was a crypto guy. And he was a pretty well-known crypto guy too. And he was also a crypto journalist. So he really understood crypto too, which was pretty rare at the time. So he was an investor type of guy. He was he was a journalist for crypto who met a lot of people and had a very unusual knowledge base for crypto in general, which was rare because you had people who made a lot of money, but they didn't actually know that much because they just bought it in college or whatever, or somebody told them to buy it and they bought it. You had those kind of guys, the rich people who were getting rich fast at the time. And then you had people like wondering about it, not knowing anything. You had all kinds of, most people, like 99% of people at the time just thought it was a scam and doubted it and didn't believe in it. Anyway, so my friend was a journalist. He was very unique because he was kind of like this guy who had a knowledge base but didn't have money. So he's quite a unique guy. I kind of think of him as something like Napoleon Hill, that book where he basically How to Win Friends and Influence People and all these books where he didn't have the knowledge himself, but he interviewed everybody. And then he became wiser than everybody else in a way because he had access to their knowledge and they freely shared it with him. And then he amalgamated it and put it together into his own knowledge base, which was very unique for him. And so anyway, he was my friend. He is my friend. And so he brought me to the meetup and I got my first Bitcoin was given to me by Roger Ver, a very early investor and cool guy. And so anyway, I was there and a lot of people were there and it got bigger fast actually. There was a couple of girls actually. There was a couple of girls that were in crypto and that was interesting too. And they were totally into it too. There was a couple of girls that were just hanging around because it was fun. And there was a couple of girls who were really into crypto. They were serious about it, just like the guys. There was one guy who used to come and he would always have a wad full of cash, he had about 500,000 yen, so $5,000. And anybody who had crypto to sell, he would just hand you the cash. He literally would just whip it out and show it to you. He's like, anybody want to sell crypto? Want to sell crypto? He'd go around to each table. Like every single time, everybody knew him. He always had 500,000 yen. He's always like, fucking, want to sell crypto? Want to sell crypto? Want to sell Bitcoin? Want to sell this? Want to sell... And at the time, it was mainly Bitcoin, right? And, well, there was Ripple and there was other ones. But anyway, so I got an early start in crypto. And I was very interested in it. And I was very lucky because I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm very good at making friends. And the friends I made, they already had the knowledge. And, I was good to them and they were good to me. So people would pass on knowledge to me. And also, when I got a crazy idea about crypto that was wrong, I could bring it to these guys. And as long as I didn't waste their time, I didn't do it too much, they would say, that's a scam, or that's stupid, or that won't work, or that's ridiculous, or that coin is inherently flawed because XYZ. And they were things that I would never figure out on my own. Like, for example, I remember when OneCoin came out, I just inherently didn't trust it because I had already had a base of knowledge. But anyway, I contacted my journalist friend. I said, what do you think about that? And in his usual, New Zealand understated way about him, he said, there are people who consider that a scam. And it was one of the biggest scams ever. It ended up being, but he didn't say it was, but he just said there are people who think that. And I was like, well, interesting. And I told my friend, I said, which I think was very valuable information at the time. My friend was going to buy it. I'm like, don't buy it. And there was a lot of crypto talk too. And I was one of these people who, it wasn't that I knew everything about crypto, but I had a way to find out things about crypto. And that was so fucking valuable at the time. It was so valuable at the time. And I was able to guide people away from danger. And that's what I like to do, like The Catcher in the Rye, the book The Catcher in the Rye. I really could resonate with that book. And Okay, so anyway, I got a little bit of crypto and I got knowledge base of crypto and I made a bunch of friends. Okay, so what do I know about crypto? What do I think about crypto now? What are things that you should know about crypto? Where do you start with crypto? What's the way to understand it without falling into one of these traps? Because there's no doubt about it. Most coins are going to zero, okay? And the reason why it's very easy to understand why is because essentially the source code, let's just say the source code for Bitcoin, right, the software, is very easy to copy. And so you can make a Bitcoin, copycat very easily today in 15 minutes. You can make your own coin. The problem is that coin has nothing unique about it. So you can sell it as a wonderful digital coin that is easy to transact and international, all the things that Bitcoin is, but that's all you get. You don't get the network effect, you don't get the miners, you don't get security, you don't get anything really. But you get, to a totally person with no knowledge, it looks great. It's like, wow, this coin is amazing. But when you actually see, like, okay, well, that's what Bitcoin is, right? And there's a lot of Bitcoin clones out there, and there's a lot of coins that are essentially, in the words of my friend, like a bunch of guys in suits in a serviced office type of coin. Okay, so those are the type of coins where you have a CEO, you have a lot of people taking salaries. Okay, so now I'm talking about types of coins. Okay, so you have the guy in a suit, right, in a nice office in London, and you have that kind of Bitcoin clone type of coin, or you have the Ethereum coin, clone coin. You have a lot of these guys. Anytime you see a coin with a, board of directors, a team, it's our team and things like that, that's the kind of coin I'm talking about. Now, these coins, there are a couple that have done okay. Like one of them is Ripple, and one of my friends was a top executive at Ripple. He now has since quit, but Ripple's an unusual coin, and there's I guess these serviced office guys in suits coins, they are the coins. It's so complicated. So I'm going to give you the best I can give you in one take, but there are things I'm leaving out. But essentially, these coins do amazing things, a lot of them. They do contracts. For example, you can get married on the blockchain, where it's like, which you guys obviously not interested in that, but you could take, in other words, you have a record of something that will never be deleted, no matter if there's fires and computer crashes and nuclear war. You will have a record of this transaction, okay, forever, because it's a smart contract on the blockchain. So you have these type of coins. They're very interesting. They're very exciting. There's a rabbit hole you can go down, and I've gone down it, studying these coins and what is possible, what is next, what's going to be on the blockchain in the future, our health records. What can you do with this? The problem is, I think one of the key things in life is to know the fundamental principles and don't go down these rabbit holes too much, okay? Your human nature is going to want to take you down these rabbit holes of studying, because you see, as a smart person, you're going to be interested in what these coins can do. You're going to be like, wow, holy shit, this does this, and we can do that, we can do that. One of the fundamental problems with a lot of these coins is, okay, they might do some amazing things. They might be some kind of, magic for like the insurance industry or whatever, bank transfers, interbank transfers. The thing is, what I'm talking about here, my perspective is, and this is the fundamentals of dollar cost averaging, is long-term investing, not trading, which I'm going to talk about in a second. but long-term investing. Okay. Now, the problem with a lot of these coins is not that they're not going to be around long-term, and a lot of them won't. But let's say you have a coin that is designed to be a smart contract. Okay. Well, that means it's a useful coin, right? You can do a lot of things with it. You can program more things in this contract where the contracts can be more and more complicated, escrow accounts and things like that, all on the blockchain, all essentially for free and amazing, right? The problem is, think about this. You have a coin that does these things. Now, if that coin gets too valuable, so let's say the coin is 1 penny now, so it's incredibly useful for making contracts. What if that coin becomes $500,000? I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying, what if it did? So you have to spend $500,000 to make a contract. It's obviously not economically practical. So that's the problem with a lot of these coins, is they're fundamentally flawed from their very design. Is yes, they can do all these amazing things. But if you want to buy these things and hold them long term, they don't make sense because the coin's design itself, it's built into it, is that it can never go up in value that much. Otherwise, people won't use it for the reason why it's designed. So a lot of these coins are just, I don't know, in the end of the day, they're a waste of time for you to think about. Okay, so that's the most positive guys in suits type coins. Okay, that's the ones we have those are the good ones, okay? Those are the good ones where you have the good people, like good programmers with good hearts, working their asses off to make something that's incredibly, useful and things like that. And then it still could be a useful coin. But as a long-term investor, it's not really that interesting because it's not going to go up. It can't go up, kind of, right? But you have the other ones. Now, here's where the scams come in. And the scams are many, and they're fucking everywhere. And traders love these scams, actually. That's one of the problems. I am not a trader. I don't recommend day trading. I'm not talking about day trading. I will never talk about day trading. Okay, by the way. And there's very good reason for that. But these coins, one thing about these coins is essentially what you have is you have old scams, okay, so old Ponzi schemes and things that humans did in the 1800s to fleece other people of money are now being recycled into crypto. And it generally is with these type of coins. The guys in suits promoting their coin, and they're going to pump and dump. And there's a number of these pump and dump schemes. And like I said, some people that are not even day traders, they might think, well, I'm not involved, but this thing can go up 1,000% in one day, so I want to buy it. I don't care if it's a pump and dump. I'm going to make some money off these suckers. And the ecosystem is more complicated than just all scammers, okay? But at the heart of it, you have somebody who is promoting something, and they will try to trick less knowledgeable people into getting in late, and they cash out. So, and they can do that. So, for example, the CEO, this guy in his suit, he can pump his coin right now because the SEC isn't really that involved. He can pump his coin. He can tell you it's going to be this. It's the hottest new thing, and he can get into the media, and they can write articles about it, and he can have like a fake partnership with the, Aramco, the Saudi oil company, or whoever it is. He can have some kind of thing, and that increases the value in people's eyes. And then all of a sudden, everybody wants to get in. Everybody's like, "Whoa, that's going to go up." And again, the day traders, those guys, they're in another category. They're not scammers. They're not part of the coin, but they like these things because they're very fucking volatile, and they're very exciting. Okay, because they go skyrocket up, right? And who doesn't want to make a bunch of money fast, right? So every human is wired to want that. So they're like, oh, I wish I could have been involved. So you have this kind of thing. And what happens with GameStop is that people end up losing money, obviously. So the insiders, the early adapters, the insiders, they're the guys who make the money. And the people that come along later thinking that they're going to basically pull out before the suckers come in and then they lose the money, generally lose the money. And if you're young, you might think that you have some kind of algorithm that's going to outsmart all these things, or that you have this super fast trading program or whatever it is. And, you can beat these things at times, but long term, you're going to lose. Okay, that's just the way it is. And the problem with long term is that's what you want. You want to be rich long term. Okay, you don't want to lose long term. Even if you make money, even if you theoretically made money, for 30 years and lost it all in one day, when you're, 30 years in one day, that's not winning. Okay, that's not winning. Okay, winning is, long term, right? You want long term. You want money that's with you. Okay, and I'm going to talk about my mistakes on this one too. So I'm not putting myself out there as perfect, but I think this knowledge is still very, very valuable. And I don't think anybody is really putting it out there in this way. That's why I'm trying to weave all this together. So my flaws as a human aside should not stop you from implementing fundamental principles that can make you wealthy. And I think also like admitting my faults. This is something you don't have a lot these days. People that admit they make mistakes. People that admit they're not perfect. People that not only admit it, but they go into the details of why it happened and their own fundamental flaws, and get into the weeds on explaining why, not only that they did lose on something, but why they lost and how they see it now and how they change, right? It's these kind of it's this growth process. I think most people on Ronin Man can handle it. And that's why I do my channel. I don't portray myself as a perfect person. I don't portray myself as never having made mistakes. I tell you what I do. It's like basically, here it is. And some people will not like that. A lot of people, they want a perfect person to look up to that is always right. And I will say this, though, and this is my belief, is by forever improving yourself in many ways, that is the perfect strategy. By forever doubting yourself and questioning yourself and forever learning and improving and taking the shots, when you get punched in the gut, taking those shots, learning your lessons and moving on. In many ways, that is the perfect way to do life, So if you see that as a goal or as a realistic thing that you could reach, in that sense, I'm pretty good at that. So I will say that is, learning your lessons, admitting your mistakes, continuing to learn new things, continuing to question yourself, surrounding yourself with smart people, with good information, and always knowing that your principles beat emotions. Okay, so you need to put as many of these principles as possible. So when you do break a principle, okay, as I did, you'll know what it was that you did that was wrong. So I'll talk about one thing I did that really killed me, and it fucking was so painful. It was so incredibly painful. Okay, so back in 1999, the stock market was going crazy, and there was what's called the internet bubble, and stocks were, going crazy. And I, as a background, I have always been a money saver, always. When I was in, I don't know what age I was, maybe elementary school or junior high school, my grandmother gave me some money for my birthday. And she said, "What are you going to spend it on?" I never forget this. We were in the car. I was in my mom's 1972 Ford LTD. And my grandmother, she looked at me and I said, "Thank you." I was all happy. And then she said, what are you going to buy? What do you want to buy? And we could go and buy that. And I said, because my grandparents, they never saved any money. They acted like a young person their whole life, and they just basically spent money as soon as it came in. And she said, "What are you going to buy?" And I said, I'm not going to buy anything. I'm going to save the money, put it in the bank." And she looked at me and she goes, "I wouldn't have given it to you if I knew you were going to save it." And it was funny because as a kid, I knew, I'm like, that is fucked up. That is so fucked up, because I had saved money already. I probably saved at the time less than $1,000, but to me, that was a lot of money at the time. And I was like, what? I was like, that's weird. She's old. That's amazing. She doesn't know this. Oh, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, right? It ain't about age here. You can be wise and young. And I'm the first to admit that. That's why in my previous episode, I talked about how you need a mentor that's younger than you, and a mentor needs you. It's such a complicated thing, because wisdom doesn't always come with age. It does not. It does not. And sometimes technology is wisdom, right? So, that comes with youth, right? So often, not always. All right. So anyway, so I was always a saver. And so what did I do with my money? I always made money. I like to make money. As a kid, I wanted to be a man. And in my mind, a man made money. So I used to mow lawns. I remember mowing my first lawn with a pair of scissors at the trailer park. And I didn't have a lawnmower. No one would give me a lawnmower. They thought it was too dangerous. Even the push types, I was really little. But I got a pair of scissors. I think I got them out of my mom's drawer or whatever. I went and I asked if I could cut a lawn, and I did it with scissors, and I made some money. And I started doing jobs to make money, save newspapers, cans. I hired kids in the neighborhood by giving them candy. And they would collect cans and newspapers, and I would go and take those to the recycling center. And I remember getting about $40 per trip. And all I had to do was buy a little bit of candy for like $2. So I had like a business when I was a little kid. And I would take that money and I would save it. And my friends were super happy because they got candy. And I was super happy because I felt like I was a businessman. And I was like, and I had saved that money. So that's my nature. That's my background. So I had a very good background as far as money. I had a very fundamental, good attitude towards money. The right attitude, I should say. And it was just built into me. I don't know why. I was that way. So anyway, I saved money. So then I was about 10 or 12 or whatever, and my dad told me about stocks. And he said, you should buy a stock. You have money now. You should invest in a stock. And I said, what's that? And he said, that's when you own part of a company. You buy a little bit of a company. So he said, what company do you like? And I like Disneyland. So I said, Disneyland, And he said, let me see. And he said, he said, Disney has a stock. You can buy a share of Disney stock. So I did. I bought a share of Disney stock. I think I bought it. Okay, this could be wrong, but my memory is, as a little kid, I think it was $100 or something like that. And so, I kept track of that stock because it was in the newspaper. And it went up to $147. And I was like, if I remember right, these are my childhood memories. And my dad gave me the worst advice you can ever give anybody. He says, do you want to sell? It's gone up. That's the worst time to sell, is something that's going up. You want to hold things going up. You want to sell things. Hold the winners. Hold the fucking winners. Couldn't have been more true with Disney. So anyway, as a kid, I thought he knew something. So I was like, oh yeah, it went up, I'll sell. So I sold it. I sold my one share, and I made a little bit of money. And I think my dad paid the commission, so that was nice. But anyway, I had this experience with investing, my very first experience. And that taught me something. And also, I put it in the bank, and the bank would give you interest back then. So I guess I did invest just in more of a conservative. I had a bank account. So I got a bank account when I was very, very young. And my first bank account was with UCB, University of California Bank, or United California Bank, or whatever. UCB. I remember it. I remember the logo. And now I still have that account, but now it's a whole new bank. It's Wells Fargo now. And So anyway, that was my experience with investing, and that was very fundamental because I realized that you could buy parts of companies, and I knew you could buy houses, So I was like, okay, what can I do in the future? So I read the book One Up on Wall Street. This is now the 80s, 90s now. And I read the book One Up on Wall Street. And that was a very interesting book by Peter Lynch. And that was basically buy and hold good companies, right? So I bought a few companies that were good. I bought Walmart. I bought 3M. I bought Costco. I bought, let's see, what else did I buy that was good? My big winner was probably Walmart. I think was my big winner. Can't remember back. 3M was big too. But I bought things that I thought had a future. And I bought kind of on accident, I bought dollar cost averaging because I would save money per month and then I would just buy these shares. I was living in Tokyo at the time and, oh, that's right. No, it wasn't by accident. No, I read 2 books, fundamental books. Somebody told me to read 2 books. One of them was The Richest Man in Babylon and the other one was The Wealthy Barber. And I read both those books a million billion times. I highlighted them. I actually wore out The Wealthy Barber. I wore the pages out, so I had to buy another copy. And I put that money, dollar cost averaging, into stocks. And I followed Peter Lynch's principles in One Up on Wall Street. And I don't know if that could be totally out of date now. I'm not recommending that. I'm saying at the time it was very important for me. And because it was long-term investing, it was smart investing. So what happened was, what do? You buy good companies when the economy's good. You buy fundamentally sound companies. What happens? You make a lot of fucking money. That's what happened. I made a lot of money. And then I met a person who I consider a bad person. They were a bad person, just overall. But they just were stupid. And one of the things, and I think they were actually worse than that, but one of the bad ideas they had was day trading. And they told me now we're fast forward to 99. I'm making a lot of money. I'm a headhunter. I'm investing big sums of money. It's no longer am I just saving money per month. I'm making big money. And that money is chunks of money just going overseas into my securities account, and I'm trading stocks. I'm buying stocks, starting to kind of trade. My friend, this guy, he was basically telling me, day trade. He's like, look online. Look, everybody's making tons of fucking money. You're an idiot. You're too boring. You're too stupid. You're too slow. I'm, making big money. You're an idiot. And so I started looking at stocks that were going up and down. At the time, there was no internet, and so we did the phone. Then there was the internet, but fundamentally there wasn't when it comes to this stuff like this. There was the phone. So what I did with phone was I would call my broker. I had a 24-hour toll-free number to call from Japan, which was amazing. I could just call them, buy this, sell this. So this information came to me to buy and sell, day trade. It's a great idea. So anyway, I started day trading. I started looking at stocks that were going up. So I looked at us companies and I started day trading. And I made a little bit of money here and there. And I started getting more and more confident that I was the smartest guy in the world. And I saw a company that was going to be the next Amazon, because Amazon had already gone up a lot. It was called Books A Million. First thing I learned from this is there is no next Amazon. There is no next Google. There is no next Tesla. There is Tesla. There will be future transportation companies. There will be future battery companies. But there's no next Tesla, right? There's no next Facebook. There's no next Google. That's it plays on your idea that because there's one, there's going to be another. But there isn't, because each thing developed in a certain period of time with certain parameters and needs of customers. And there's forces at work that create things in time, right? There's no next Mozart, right? So what do we have here? I believed that the next Amazon. Whoa, what a great idea. So Books A Million was going to be the next Amazon. I was like, holy shit, the next Amazon. Fuck, I got to get into that, So I took all my money, everything I had saved, all the money I had made. Now keep in mind, in the 90s, I was a stock market guru to my friends. I had saved money conservatively. I had invested conservatively. I had made money. I wasn't making that much money, but I had a lot of money. I was becoming wealthy. I was becoming wealthy on a low salary, which is fundamentally what I started this with. You can become wealthy on a small salary if you follow fundamental principles. I was becoming wealthy, and I was young. I was in my 20s. Things were rocking and rolling. And so now, but I changed, and I didn't notice that I changed. Okay, I didn't notice. That's fundamental too. I thought this was a new, quote unquote, good principle. Day trading and built on the foundation of the next Amazon. Both those principles were not good for me. So anyway, I put it into this Books A Million. It's very difficult to see the chart of Books A Million because it's so thin. It went up so fast in like one day and down and then back up and then down all in 1 or 2 days that you can't even find the chart when you look at the chart. You won't even see it, but it actually hit a high of $83. I think it's $3 now. So anyway, I bought at 81 and it went up to 83 and it started to go down. Now I was on the phone with my broker, so I was getting this information in relatively real time. And I said, sell. And he said, okay. So I put a sell order. The problem is all the insiders were selling hundreds of thousands of shares. And my sale went through the next day at the very bottom. Okay. And it went back up after my sale went through to like $80 and then back down. And now it's like $3. So basically I went from a guy who was a full steam ahead. I was a full steam ahead, train going full steam ahead, 9 million miles an hour in one direction, right? And the next day I was completely lost. I understand why people commit suicide when things happen. I never seriously considered it, but I remember thinking, this is when people do this, is when everything comes crashing down. Because it wasn't just the money. It was my whole self-esteem. It was my image as a man. It was all my friends. It was my parents. It was how people looked at me. It was the feeling of greatness of having money. It was the feeling of confidence of having built something from a guy who was from a trailer park, who never was supposed to do anything, who had done it. It was all these things. And the next day, all nothing, right? And it was my fault. It wasn't even like I couldn't even blame it on anybody. Because this wasn't even, get this, I couldn't even blame it on anybody because I couldn't say this was the internet crash because that was coming months later. No, this was all just me. My own world crashed in an hour and a half. And along with it, a lot of my principles crashed. And I was so depressed about saving money that I didn't even look in that account. And I stopped reading the statements, bank statements that I got from the broker, and I moved departments. And those statements started going to my account. My old address, which I didn't have a forwarding address. I didn't even know that I didn't. Back then I forgot, or I didn't tell the post office. I thought they knew, but anyway, they didn't know. So those got sent back to my broker. And interestingly enough, my broker got those again and again and again. And the broker, after a certain amount of months, they reported me as dead. Okay, so the U.S. government estated what was left in my account. They estated all my life savings, which was obviously it had crashed, but still, this is the chain of events that happens when you lose everything. You just don't want to look at those things. I didn't want to fucking see those notices. Even if there was still money in it, I don't know how much was there, but there was still money there. It wasn't like there was nothing. There was thousands of dollars. But to me, it was too depressing to look at. So I didn't even bother forwarding the things. I never imagined the government would take my money. Anyway, they did. They took it all. So when I finally did log in, at the time you could log in, on the internet, I logged into my account and it was zero. I was like, what the fuck? So I called the guy and he said, oh, he's like, you're here? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, the U.S. government has stated your money. I said, well, tell them I'm alive, just get the money back. And he's like, oh, okay, sorry about that. So he did his research and he calls me back and he's like, dude, I don't know how to tell you this, but once your money's been stated, there's no mechanism to get it back. He goes, I did my research and for you to fight this, it would be enormously expensive battle and you don't have that much money in this account. So I would just, if I was you personally, he goes, I would just forget about it and move forward. And it was really the crowning moment for me of that period of life where I followed my principles. Now, some good things did come out of this, okay? But I just didn't want to see it. It was too painful. And I just wrote it off. I just said, okay, because I'm a happy person, okay? I'm a happy person. So no matter what happens, I'm going to move on. And I did. I said, okay, don't think about that. Move on. So what are you going to do? What did you learn from this? I didn't learn a lot of the lessons I should have, but I did learn one valuable lesson. And that was make a lot of money. Because before I was a headhunter, I never made much money. So it was like slow going. But when I realized that I had the talent and skill to make a lot of money quickly, and that's possible. Making money investing is difficult. It's pretty much a dumb idea. But making money in business is actually very possible. You can make a fuck ton of money. Just you make a business deal and you close that deal, you get a lot of money. It's just the way it is. It's not a scam. If you sell a $100 million building, which was the business I was in at the time, there was about a $6 million commission on that in Japan. 3% on both sides of the broker, and you were allowed to be both sides of the broker, buyer and seller. And that's 6%, that's $6 million. If you have your own company, that's in your pocket, $6 million minus expenses. But still, that's fucking, insane. And all you're doing is selling something. You're fundamentally you're transacting an asset, which is not impossible. It's not a scam. Selling a $100 million building is the furthest thing from a scam that there is because it's very difficult. And the people that buy those buildings are generally very, very, very smart people. And they do their research. They do their due diligence. They have a due diligence lawyer, and it's very fundamental. It's very, very sound principles go into that kind of transaction. And you need to follow very sound principles. And I was. So I realized that you could actually make money with sound principles quicker than people think. So I was like, okay, I'll focus on that. I'll focus on making big money. I'm going to sell expensive things. That was my decision. So I'll sell airplanes. I'll sell large assets. I'll sell companies. I'll sell things with a massive commission. And so that was actually a good lesson. That was a very good lesson that you could do something that would make you a penny or make you $6 million. The same transaction was happening. You're selling something. You're selling a gumball. You're selling a building. It's the same principle. You have an asset. You're finding a buyer. You're getting a contract, or you're making a deal and you're closing the deal and you're getting paid, and the asset is liquid. It's moving from one owner to the other. There you go. Very simple. You're just doing it with a bigger asset. That was a very good lesson. But I didn't learn the other lesson is that I should have done both. I did learn one lesson, like make more money on the plus side, but on the saving side, that's regardless. You should just be doing that. Small money is not unimportant. It's very important. Sometimes small money is more important than big money because small money can become big money, and it does become big money. So I turned my back on dollar cost averaging, and I learned something, and I moved forward. So what lessons do I have for you today in today's world? I would say that stocks, there are a lot to learn there. There's a rabbit hole. I talked about it before, but as a long-term stock guy who's been buying stocks for over 40 years, I would say that there's a principle that's very, very good, and it's worth piggybacking on, riding on the back of. And that is that the S&P 500 is wise. Recently they took Tesla in, and there's an ecosystem in the S&P 500. It's not perfect, but basically the old gets weeded out, and now oil companies are getting weeded out. Old companies that are failing get weeded out, and new companies get taken in. So there's a regrowth. There's a built-in ecosystem based on a lot of smart people and a lot of fundamentally good sound principles. Not perfect, but in the end, the wisdom of crowds, it tends to go the right direction. Okay, that's all you can ask for in life. It tends to go the right direction. And you don't have to put any thinking into it because it's there. It's a system. It's effective. It's kind of like the ocean. The ocean is an ecosystem. A lot of fundamentally sound principles are going on that don't go on in a pool. That's why you need a pool cleaner. That's why you need a bunch of chemicals, because the fundamentally sound principles that keep that ocean water clean are not going on in your pool. Okay, that's the difference between a small and big thing and a real and an ecosystem. So riding on the back of an ecosystem is a very smart thing to do. So the S&P 500, think of it as the ocean, an ecosystem. It's not a perfect analogy, but it's good enough. Now, how do you buy the S&P 500? You want to buy it with a mutual fund that mirrors a mirroring fund, as I talked about. So basically what it does, a mirroring fund, is they buy exactly those companies in the same percentage that the S&P 500 does, right? So it's just like it averages them all out into a basket, okay, into something that is leveraging an ecosystem, okay? Now, you can go one step further. You find the ones with the lowest monthly fees, because in the end, there's not fucking rocket science. You're just basically buying what's in the S&P 500. And you can have a nice office. You can have a shitty office. You could have no office. You could be homeless in used underwear in the street, mirroring the S&P 500. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you're buying those things and you're mirroring them, right? So who does it? What kind of watch they're wearing doesn't matter. So you want something with the lowest fees that takes advantage of that ecosystem. So I would say that alone, okay, dollar cost averaging plus which means you're buying every month. So it doesn't matter if there's a stock market bubble. It doesn't matter. Over time, okay, the S&P 500 mirroring funds, they beat the smartest hedge fund investors. Check it out online. It's a fucking fact. There's going to be a few hedge fund guys that are big stars 1 year. 3 years later, they're not. Okay. This is a very, very good investment. Now, I think that that's not good enough for me. I think that you want to do two things. I personally think crypto is the shit and worth looking into. Now, again, I'm not saying, again, you're not saying put all your money in crypto. I'm not saying put all your money in one coin. I'm not putting all your say in one particular investment. I'm just saying that I think there's a future in this technology. Okay, so, and again, this is just me. Okay, I'm not saying you should do it. If you want to take the best of what I say and the most conservative of what I've said, dollar cost average into an S&P mirroring fund with the lowest fees or no fees. And don't think about it, just buy every month for the next 30, 40, 50 years, and you will do fine. But if you want to add in a little more risk, a little bit more possible reward, adding crypto. Now, where do you start with crypto? Where do you fucking start? You got these guys with these coins that they're pumping. You got Ponzi schemes. You got scams like right and left with crypto. Where do you fucking start? Well, I told people where to start, which was Bitcoin, and that's kind of gone up a lot now. So is it over? How to think about it? Okay, I'm just going to go over this one quickly, and if this is interesting, I will go deeper in a future episode. Basically, you got community coins, and you have the guys in suits coins, if you want to divide them up. A community coin is a coin of people, developers, that believe in a technology and essentially work without pay, or very close to without pay, to start, and eventually there is pay. But it's a coin that is needed by the community, or the community of developers sees a need and has such faith in this and such belief in this that they're willing to put their time into this concept. And that's what we saw with Satoshi Nakamoto, where there was a group of people, whatever, and the miners and the core developers for Bitcoin. Those guys believed in Bitcoin. They believed that this was going to change the world. I think they're fucking right, too. Anyway, they believed in it so much like if you read the fantastic paper, I think it's Eric Chapman, by Eric S. Chapman, The Cathedral and the Bazaar, which basically details the difference between a planned thing and a community-made thing. Okay, the Bazaar, you can just add shit to it. The cathedral has to be planned, there's an architect, right? And what the internet has taught us, the internet is bizarre, by the way. It's the bazaar. When it comes to the content, it's a bazaar. And when it comes to the servers, it's a bazaar. When it comes to, the network, it's a bazaar. The whole thing was just fucking random. Shit connected, computers connected over this, and it's like a neural network. It's more like a neural network. And that, as crazy as it sounds, the internet has never crashed. And the reason why is because there's a fundamental sound principle in random numbers. And somehow a neural net, a network of connections, a random set of connections becomes very strong. And that's kind of what the internet is, and kind of what the bazaar is, as opposed to the cathedral. And these developers, to connect it to what I'm talking about, that principle, the cathedral and the bazaar, that, although that's talking about open source development, it's very, very fundamental principle to me. I really believe in those principles. I really believe in open source. I believe in mathematics. I believe in these principles that don't seem, no one would guess that the internet would beat IBM. Nobody, if you would have asked anybody in the 80s, will a group of people, random fucking people that hate government, which was what they were, who wear all black and dress like goth and don't give a shit, their entire wardrobe is like 3 Metallica t-shirts or whatever, that these guys would beat Google and Facebook. Well, they didn't exist yet, but the kings, the behemoths of their time. I mean, the computing power that goes into Bitcoin, if you wanted to overpower Bitcoin, basically, and reach 51% of mining and fake a transaction, you would need more servers than Google, Facebook, and Amazon together. That's why nobody can take Bitcoin down. That's why it hasn't been, quote unquote, hacked. There's never been a double spend, because the computing power is more, it would cost you more money. It would take more resources than it could possibly be worth for one transaction. So into the system is built a fail-safe device, is that there's no point in beating it. There's no point in creating a double spend. There's no point in taking it down. It's a beautiful principle. It's so beautiful. It's so unbeatable. That's why I love principles like this. That's why I like physics. Because it's just like, you can't beat physics. It's just like, it's so beautiful. It's just, you've reached a principle that there's no lower principles. It's a fundamental principle that you can base things on, and reality, and have security that that this is not going to happen. Because it cannot happen, because the factors are not there, unless a new actor could come up. No, the one thing that could beat it, don't say anything, quantum computers. Okay, that's the thing. New technology. But with today's current silicon, impossible. That's beautiful enough for me. Now, quantum computers, they're going to come around and they're going to be able to beat the algorithm. They're going to be able to basically out-hash the whole fucking thing. They're going to be able to. Now, of course, there's going to be developments and the community is smart. But future unknowns, black swans, could come along. But again, I get ahead of myself. Nothing is forever. Okay. So, Bitcoin was a beautiful thing, and it is a beautiful thing. And it's a community coin based on good-hearted people that give a fuck. And I think of Ronin Man listeners as similar people as the original developers. Like, very smart. These guys were fucking smart, man. Quants, man. These guys were fucking super fucking smart. The developers, the Satoshi Nakamoto group or whatever it was. I mean, holy crap. We're talking off the charts smart here, right? And they did something for the better of society. It's beautiful, beautiful. That's a community coin. So that's one type of coin. And what coins fit into this? Another one is Dash. Dash is kind of a community coin. Monero is a community coin, full-on community coin. Monero is it's a privacy coin. So Monero is a new type of coin in the sense that Bitcoin originally, well, what people say, the simplistic way to put it is that Monero is what Bitcoin should have been. So Monero is untraceable. So, well, again, by current technologies and current knowledge. And, governments are working very hard and there are currently $625,000 bounties out to beat Monero's privacy. And maybe they will eventually do it. But anyway, right now, Monero is private. And what that means is Bitcoin is a public ledger, okay? And it's very complicated and you can study. And I recommend using some of your brain power to study crypto just to understand it. But you don't have to. You can take fundamental principles and make a ton of money without knowing every detail of something. And that's, again, eating the right foods. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. You just need to eat the right foods. At the same time as you eat the right foods, you're going to get smarter. And you might want to use some of that power to know why these things work. Or your curiosity might get the better of you. Or you might realize that if I realize the fundamental principles of eating, that might give me some ideas to start a company or help me not to make big mistakes in the future. There'll be some benefit to me to knowing things, not just being blindly doing the right thing, right? You're going to get more complicated as you do the right things. And that's a good thing. But you don't need it. Okay, so Monero right now it's a community coin, but it's also private. So what that means is, so with Bitcoin, what's happening with Bitcoin is every transaction is traceable. So not who owns it, not necessarily, because if you didn't buy your coins through an exchange, okay, so there are coins, I try to put this into words that everybody's going to understand, is like essentially addresses. Like there's like Bitcoin accounts. You can think of it as a bank account, kind of. Not really, but it's an account, right? So that's an address, which is a number, which is not really private. You don't really own it. Somebody could theoretically guess it, but the numeric probability of that is so low to make it zero, essentially, in real life, which is the fundamental principle behind Bitcoin. But you have an account, essentially, okay, an address, and that address, transactions to and from that address, are public. That's part of the public ledger of Bitcoin. The miners, they have that, they back it up, and there's a lot of them, which makes it difficult to cheat and all those. We're not going to go into the details, but basically, strangely enough, everything is trackable in Bitcoin, which is not trackable with dollars. So if I hand you $10, I mean, other than you could test it for substances or something, DNA or something, essentially that $10 is $10, okay? Not really dirty or clean. It's just $10. It's just a fresh $10 bill, essentially. Now, Bitcoin is not, because if a bad person, okay, let's say a bad person gets Bitcoin. Let's say they do a big hack, and they hack a bunch of things and do some terrible, terrible things, and they get paid off, okay? The transactions that the Bitcoin that goes to them to pay off the ransom is now public. We know which account got that, which Bitcoin address got that. Now, when that is spent, we know it came from there. We know it came from paying off for some terrible, terrible thing. So naturally, those Bitcoins are going to be seized they can't be seized by Bitcoin because Bitcoin doesn't seize things. Bitcoin is, as it was originally designed, uncontrollable. What's controllable is the gateway to Bitcoin, and that is exchanges. Okay, so I'm going to lose you a couple of people, and some people are going to be like, this is so simple, like, obviously. But let me explain it this way. Okay, so I can give you $10 and you can sell me Bitcoin. That transaction can happen. Just like I can give you $10 and you can give me a meal, okay? And that transaction is not traceable. But if I give you a credit card, if I go through a bank, then that transaction is now traceable. Okay. So the same transaction could be traceable, could be not. Now, when you pay cash, you're not evil. You're not James Bond. You're not, you're not, what is that? I can't think of the British Secret Service right now. Something 5. You're not that. You're just like buying a fucking meal, right? You're paying cash. Some guy with a credit card is not an idiot. He's not a fool. He's also just paying cash. It just doesn't matter. Everybody has to eat. It doesn't matter. So transactions don't have to be private. And if they are, it doesn't mean that you're a fucking terrible, you're not plotting to destroy the world, just because you paid cash. Same with cryptocurrency. So same principles apply. So if I have friends that have Bitcoin, I can give them money and they can give me Bitcoin. I can buy cash. Now that would be sent to my wallet and there would be no record of who bought that or who sold that. There would be a ledger, a public ledger of a transaction happening. So in other words, 1 dash blah, 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 big number, sent this many Bitcoins to blah, 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 this other address. That is public. But who owns blah, 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 and blah, 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 those two addresses, nobody knows. That's not public. But what is public is that it happened. The transaction occurred. Now, how things become traceable in Bitcoin is that the original guys, and in the group that I was in, they were not very pro exchanges, mostly because Mt. Gox had, was just blowing up. And so a lot of them lost money because they learned their lesson. So what are exchanges? Exchanges are banks, essentially. So you want to buy Bitcoin and you don't have any friends with Bitcoin. So what do? You sign up for an exchange. An exchange will ask you for all kinds of personal information. They want to know your DNA. They want your dick size, C cup, B cup. They want to know your blood type. They want everything about you, your social security code. No, not really, but that's how it feels. Basically, what they're doing is they're going to ask you for all your identifiable information to buy a cryptocurrency, that was not the original deal. That was not the fucking deal in the original white paper. There wasn't anything about this. There was an untraceable, essentially, currency, which was very cool, trustless, right? Amongst friends, it was a very cool idea. But the way they got you was the gateway. So the gateway was, if you wanted to buy it, you had to register with a bank, and then you would put money in there. Not a bank, but it's kind of like a bank. Think of it as bank. It's a middleman. So a middleman. And you're giving them money, you're giving them your account information, and then they're giving you Bitcoin. Now, they know your address. Your address is their basically account, basically. And at their bank, their exchange. And so they know everything about you. So when that goes up in value, that's your asset is raised in value. You have to pay capital gains tax on that, right? And also they know who you are. So if you buy something, they know you bought that, right? So long story short, that there are ways that people, and a lot of people have Bitcoin, just like you would buy the $10 meal without paying cash, without being traceable. A lot of people have Bitcoin and it's essentially untraceable because they never bought it with any number. They just gave somebody cash, somebody gave them Bitcoin. So that's the closest thing Bitcoin has to privacy, right? But as things are moving on, that's becoming less and less. Most people buy Bitcoin through exchanges. That Bitcoin is traceable. Ransomware is in Bitcoin. It's traceable, and scams and things like that are all traceable. So what you're having is a system that's highly regulated and closely watched. So of course, the developers are trying to get ways to follow the fundamental original principles of Bitcoin, which was, a trustless, masterless kind of, masterless Ronin type of system, right? And so they are developing different coins, which are called privacy coins. And those privacy coins is different. With every coin, you have a successful coin and an unsuccessful coin. Usually the coin is successful because a community coin is because you have something that the community, a bunch of people that are random, believe that it's so important they want to be involved in it. They think there's a future to this because it solves a problem they believe in. And they're not easily fooled because you can get a bunch of idiots to join a coin and develop for them. But that coin will fail because they're going to be the dumb developers. So that's the key thing. You can have a community coin that's a bunch of idiots. It's going to get ruined because the architects and the designers and all those people are just fucking morons. So that's the key with a community coin is not only do you have a coin that solves a problem that is so attractive that people want to put their blood, sweat, and tears into this technology, but not only that, they fucking are smart. So they know crypto, they understand, and they're putting their top-level brain, top-level programming skills into this coin, good-heartedly, essentially. They might get some salary, but it's not really that much. They're betting on this horse. And the reason why they're betting on the horse is because they can kind of see the future of that technology. As a programmer, they know that certain things are dying, in certain languages, certain ways of doing things technology-wise are growing, and they want to be part of that. They see this as a fundamental solution from the kind of the molecular level, the DNA level. And they want to be part of that. They want to meet other people in that. They want to, and they're very smart too, because they're getting in at the ground level. They're going to, and also, people like me watch these people and, where are the smart programmers going? Where are the developers? Where are the best developers going? Where are the, in community coins? I'm watching that. Now you can take a hired gun. You can have a scam coin, okay? And then you have your office in London and a bunch of guys with fancy suits. And then you have your scam coin and you can pay a top level developer because he might want to be part of a scam. He might see this as an opportunity to cash out because he'll be one of those guys who will cash out because he's going to be in at the very beginning. So top level developers can be hired away from these projects, but they're going to always have one foot. These guys are smart. These guys are so smart. These developers are always going to have one foot in a good fucking pool of developers that's developing the next big thing. And that's where you want to be. So I think that, like some coins like Monero are worth a look as the type of coin that I'm talking about. Monero hasn't gone up that much. It's still cheap. It is a privacy coin, which was the original kind of, the original direction of Bitcoin, the original reason for Bitcoin being exist. So that is always a good thing when it ties into something old, right? Something that motivated the original people. And again, there's a bunch of coins that are privacy coins. Looking at Monero, I see it as probably the most fundamentally sound one, based on unique technology. That's another thing too. You can make a new coin in 2 minutes, as I said, as an offshoot of another coin. The Monero ecosystem is not an offshoot of another coin. It was developed from the ground up. That's also rare. A community coin developed from the ground up. It's not an offshoot of any coin. It's totally fundamentally unique principles which are sound. That's another thing. The encryption behind and the mathematics, let's just say the mathematics behind Monero are even more, like there's more, it's to a higher power, essentially. So you have a 2 to the thirds, or you have the 2 to the eighth, okay? That's a higher power, not in the sense of God, but in the sense of, it's a higher value based on, okay, so you get it, right? So the mathematics behind Monero are exponentially higher or more secure than Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin is so amazing that there's no way, I don't think, that someone's going to hack it for a long time. But Monero is one step further. And that's fucking a good thing. That's never a bad thing when it comes to a new coin. That's always a good thing. Because it doesn't cost anything. It's simple. You put the mathematics into it, the math does the fucking work, right? Boom, you have a more secure coin. You have a more secure network. Another thing about Monero is, one thing I look for in coins is there a user base? Okay, you have a developer base, and you have that developer base is based on attractiveness of the fundamental usability of that coin, usability of that concept. And then you have, I'm losing my mind. I'm starting to lose my train of thought here. I lost that thought. Let me just continue on. So there's so many principles here. It's okay to lose one big principle. I'll put it in the comment section. Okay, so you have this coin and this community. Oh, use case, yeah. So use case. So if you have people using the coin, that is a very good thing. So now, of course, from a use case perspective, okay, I'm going to separate two things here. In this case, okay, I don't mean use case as in doing good for the world And I also don't mean doing bad for the world. I mean totally divorcing good or bad from the world and just saying, is there a user base? Okay. So is there a user base for a cemetery? There is. Dead people, right? Is that a good thing to hope for? No. You don't want more dead people. But there are people that are going to die. Okay. And they're going to have to go somewhere. We all are going to have to go somewhere. So where are we going to go? Cemetery, or, something similar, if we're going to be burned, whatever. There's going to be a process. There's going to be a place for us to go, right? Or, like William Shatner shot up into space, burned and shot into space. Okay. So is there a user base? The user base for Monero, unfortunately, is criminal gangs. Okay. So the mafia, right? Essentially. Criminal gangs, bad people, and also bad actors on the geopolitical stage. So North Korea is big on mining Monero. Why? Because it's so fucking private. So not only are the transactions private, but, no one knows. People know that a transaction happened, but they don't know who did it or how much happened. So they don't know the difference between somebody sending somebody 1 penny and $1 trillion being transacted. They don't know the difference between two friends doing it to test Monero out and, the Mexican mafia extorting whoever, and blood and bloodshed and nuclear weapons being sold. There's no way to know. All they know is like some transaction happened on Monero. Who did it? How much? That's not public. Now, I'll just go into the specifics of Monero. The reason why I'm going into Monero is because I think it is a good coin, and you have to study some coin to understand other coins. Okay, so you have to go into this. You got to go into the weeds on at least one coin if you want to understand other coins, because they all kind of have different, similar aspects, right? It's like a house. You can talk about houses, but in the end, you got to get into one fucking house. You have to go into one house. Here's doors. Here's the kitchen. Here's the fucking floor. Here's electricity. Here's plumbing. Here's windows. You got to do that. Otherwise, talking about houses just doesn't. Once you go into one house, you can kind of think, oh, if there were a bigger window, I could imagine that, because light comes in through the window, and then I get water through the fucking plumbing. Wow, that's amazing, right? Everybody knows that's what I think is man's greatest invention, right? Technology. Running water. That was the biggest, more than blockchain, more than the internet. Running water was the biggest thing. But anyway, you figure you can extrapolate from understanding one house. That's why I'm going to talk about Monero. Not because I'm not selling Monero. I don't, own Monero. I don't own there's no company behind Monero. You can't own Monero, but you can have some Monero, but you can't own the whole thing. You can't, it's a community coin, but it's useful and it's unique, and it's maybe one of the better, maybe with my knowledge of things at the moment, could be one of the better ones, or one of the more interesting ones, or good in some way. Okay, so anyway, you have a user base. You have user base, which is, right now you have people that want to be anonymous, obviously, right? Because they're doing bad things. So but you can't, there's two ways to look at it. One is, just like the cemetery, no one wants to be into the business of, a funeral home. But hey, it's a good business, right? Nothing wrong with being a funeral home director or owning a funeral home, selling your land to a funeral home, selling coffins. I mean, Costco sells coffins. Hey, it's nothing, you're not a bad person for selling death, right? Even though it's fucking death, right? So owning a coin that bad people own or user base, I'd say you want to get past that one, because it's not the defining part of Monero. That I think that's the key thing. It's useful to those people, but that doesn't mean that you agree with them or one of them or anything. All you know, as an example, what I'm talking about is a lot of money is betting on Monero, and will always be betting on a coin like that, because there's always going to be a black market ever since the beginning of time. If they would have asked Jesus about this, he said there will always be poor with us. he would have said there will always be a black market, because there always will be. There's always going to have people that are doing what everybody else does, or quote unquote the right thing, and there's always going to be people doing the wrong thing, or what everybody else doesn't want to get involved in. There's always going to be, porn, and there's always going to be modeling. There's always going to be, there's always going to be these two yin and yang. There's always going to be yin and yang. That's what it's saying. But let's look at crime from one perspective. So there's a lot of money in crime. And criminals, again, we're never going to go away. They're always going to be there. And criminals, they love Monero. They fucking love Monero. So whether they are mining Monero, hacking, one of the big, I think 6% Monero comes from hacking of corporate networks to mine Monero. So basically what they're doing is hackers are installing, software onto computer, like corporate networks. And one of the problems with mining, okay, so if you don't know mining, you probably do, but you buy a bunch of computers, and they do mathematics that secures the network and makes it secure for people to buy and sell. And for doing this service, you get paid in the coin, okay? So that's called mining. So you can mine by buying a bunch of computers, or you can cheat, right? You can put software on other people's computers, and they can pay for the electricity and computing power, and they can mine and send you free coins, right? So that's what's happening there. That's what's happening is some criminal gangs are hacking, and they are mining Monero, and they are getting Monero coin, and Monero is untraceable, and they are getting very fucking rich. Very, 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 very fucking rich. So that's going on with Monero. And then you have bad actors buying Monero. Now, why would I talk about Monero? I'm not a hacker. I'm not the Mexican mafia. I am not a criminal gang. Why would me and other people be interested in Monero? Well, I mean, for one reason is the same reason I use the US dollar. A lot of bad people use the US dollar. The US dollar is used by the most bad people of any currency in the world. Like, just like LeBron James has the most, what is it? Steals, I think he lost. He has the most misses. Everybody that's at the top of their game, they're the top on one end, and they're also the top on the other end, eventually. If you're the top on one end, you eventually miss enough to be the top on the other end, just because you survived long enough in the NBA. So Monero is, why would normal people like me be interested in a privacy coin if we are not planning bad things? The reason is for a very good reason. And that reason is, it's because of it goes back to the kind of the lemon car example. So you have a car, and that car, let's just say, for example, is a very good car. So, or let's just say this. Your grandmother dies, unfortunately, and she leaves you this car. And you know for a fact, this car was treated with loving care. Every mile in this car was perfect. And she drove a combination of city and highway miles. So you know the engine is clean. You know she never had an accident. You know that she loved her car. She never burned out. She never raced. She never tricked it out. She never totaled the car and fixed it. She never did anything wrong with this car. This car was a perfect car. This is a peach of a car. A beautiful car. Now, when you go to the market, you try to sell your car. You go to Craigslist. You say, I have a car. My grandmother just passed away. She drove this car perfectly. It is an absolutely gem of a fucking used car. And that's why, this is a Honda Accord. And Honda Accords for this year, they sell between X and Y price. Let's just say between $3,000 and $5,000. Okay. But so the average sales price is, $4,000, right? Right in the middle, right? But because this is a peach, and I know it's a peach, I want $4,999 because this car is worth it. It is a fucking peach. Now, what's wrong with that? The problem is you, as the seller, have access to all the information, but the buyer does not. He does not know for sure that is a peach. He reads your marketing story and he thinks, well, there's a chance. This guy's grandmother died and this is a peach. So if that were true, I would be happy to pay him $4,999 because that car is worth $5,000. So I make $1. Can't beat that. Nothing wrong with that. But I get a free $1. Look in your wallet. There's one more $1. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is you as the buyer and you as the seller do not know, you do not have access to the same amount of information. So the buyer and seller have the buyer has imperfect information. So that's the problem, okay? So when you're selling, so this is why it's so frustrating to sell a used car, especially a good used car. Now, if you're on the other side, you have a shitty used car, and this thing's been totally fucking thrashed. Your brother is a psycho, and he borrowed your car, and you saw him thrash the shit out of it, and he brought it to the worst car mechanics, and he bent the frame, and that the thing is ready to go out of, you're just ready to fucking fall apart, but it looks fine. It looks great. The car looks great. So as a seller of a lemon, that it looks just like your other car that you sold, your grandmother's car. The difference is there's a big difference, right? Because yours is worth $3,000, right? It's the very worst of the cars that look like this, right? It's very bottom, right? But the buyer does not know. So the buyer just says, okay. And you tell him, you might even lie. Whoever sells this car, they might lie. They might say, this is a peach. My grandmother drove this car and she never drove it fast. She never did burnouts. She wasn't Fast and the Furious, She was an old lady. So you might try to sell it as a peach, but the guy buying it's like, no fucking way. I don't believe you. And so he says, well, he doesn't think, because it looks pretty good. He doesn't think it's a lemon. He's not going to bet on that either. He's not going to say, this is a fucking lemon. I'll only give you $3,000. The reason why he won't do that, he wants to give you $3,000, but he knows that you won't sell it to him because you don't know for sure it's a lemon, but neither does anybody else because all the buyers, except his neighbor or her other grandkids, know the true history of this car. So therefore, nobody is going to offer $3,000 because otherwise they'll never get a fucking car. So they say, well, I'll go in the middle, $4,000. That's Kelly's blue book. I'm going to offer the average of lemons and peaches and lies and truth and good and bad. I'm going to do that, right? So I'm going to do that. So because of that, the value of the coin, the value of the product can never be one or the other, peach or lemon. It's always got to be in the middle because of imperfect information in the market. So when you buy a Bitcoin, okay, you're buying something that could be could be frozen in the future because it might have a history of some kind of wrongdoings. There's a possibility that will be frozen or you will have trouble with that, right? I'm talking as a good person, why you'd buy a Monero. And you don't want to take the risk. Okay, so if you're clean, the last fucking thing you want to do, okay, let's say you're clean. You're a girl, she's clean. She's a church girl. She is the most purest girl you've ever met. She's good, but she's always controlled herself. She's never gone all the way, but she's filled the desire. She's just waiting for that man to come along that loves her and marries her, and she's going to give all to him. And it's going to be perfect for everybody, right? Now that girl, she has a lot to lose. So the last thing she wants to do is be known as a porn star, because that's the worst, or a prostitute. That's like the exact opposite. That's a lemon, right? She's a peach, right? The last thing she wants to do is be associated with lemons in any way. She doesn't want her face to show up in any porn site, or she doesn't want to, because that would totally ruin her. Now, an average girl, she'll lose a lot by being, seen as a porn star, but not as much. But the girl who's a peach, she really loses everything, Then she's just, boom, she goes doghouse to the penthouse to the doghouse overnight, right? So she's going to avoid that. So the very best people in the world, okay, the good people, okay, so let's say you're one of those. You might not be good in the sense of religion or whatever, but the best-hearted people, the people that do the best things in life, okay? The good people, let's call them. They don't want to be associated. They don't want to take a risk. They want, when they buy something, because they never cheat anybody themselves, so they don't want to be cheated by anybody else. So they want a coin that's clean. So when they use that coin, nobody can say, hey, you are a drug dealer, or you are a mafia member, or you are the North Korean President Kim Jong-un, because they're not, but they're not. So they want something that's fresh. So a Monero coin and a privacy coin in general is fresh, because fundamentally each time you spend it, no one knows where it came from. No one knows where it's going. And so it's a funny coin, because privacy coins, because two people like to use them, which is the very best people and the very worst people. They both like the same coin. That's the crazy thing about privacy coins, but for totally different reasons, right? The good people, because they don't want to be tainted, just like the girl, and the bad people because they don't want to be caught, right? Basically, they don't want their money seized, right? So the reason why Monero and coins like that are very, I would say, let's see, on a higher stair in my mind, okay? Nothing is perfect, but let's say there's stairs, there's a set of stairs. Each time I find a fundamental principle, like the laws of physics that weave into this product, concept, coin, whatever it is, the more of those that are in there, the higher it goes in my mind, right? The more sure I am that this is a good coin. So the reason why Monero is pretty high in my mind is because it fits a lot of bills. It's got a lot of people using it. It's always going to have money going through it, as far as I can see, in the foreseeable future. It's got a good user base. Now, of course, that user base is not good, but a lot of money is going to go through that coin. That's key. And that money will drive developers, because developers need money. And developers have to be smart, so they have to know a coin has a future, so they're going to come to that. That's another fundamental principle. And then what seals the deal for me at this point in time of being a good coin to have in your basket. Again, I'm not saying buy this coin, you have to buy this coin, it's the only coin to buy. Don't buy Bitcoin. I'm not saying that. This is as you guys know that listen to this channel and listen all the way to the end, this is the hardcore thinking I put into everything I do. So I'm not saying I'll put this thinking into other coins too. But at this moment in time, Monero is a good one, because it passes all my things. Because now you have the fundamental thing, which is transactions. So you have store of value and you have transactions. So large groups of money, big amounts of money through crime networks might be stored on Monero as large stores of value. They might get paid off $1 billion. They might hold that money for whatever reason. That's good for a coin, is to have large amounts of money as stores of value. But another important part of a coin is the liquidity of the coin. So the usability of the coin. So why Monero is so good in my mind is because the good people, okay, they buy Monero for totally different reasons. And they want to buy things, pay for things. They want a coin that's very liquid because they just might need it for whatever reason, right? And Monero can easily be transferred into a very, very liquid coin, either on exchange or off the market, just through friends. Monero is very liquid. I mean, it's not as liquid as it used to be because some exchanges, which are the middlemen, the banks essentially, are giving into pressure from the U.S. government or their own governments to stop having it on their exchange. It's legal to own it, but they don't want to make it too easy to buy because of this aspect of the criminal aspect, right? But as far as the liquidity aspect, the government doesn't care about that. They're fine with the liquidity of Monero. They don't care about that. So the people that are looking at it as a potential dollar cost average, somewhat liquid asset, then it's there's nothing wrong with that. They're good, right? So I think those three pools, right? Well, you have the fundamental white paper, which is the unique principles of the coin. Then you have the developers that are attracted by those principles, those solid principles. Then you have the large amounts of money that go into a coin or don't go into a coin. Most coins, there's no real money. There's no real value. There's no fucking store of value in these shit coins with the guy with the suit and is going to pump it and dump it. There's no fucking store of value there. And there's no use case. There's just pump and dump scam, right? But then when you get the liquidity side in there, that makes it interesting to me. So I think that we have a coin here that has passed a lot of the Ronin man tests, okay? So what I would say is this exercise you've done today has taken you on a journey. I hope this is a valuable journey. I hope this changes your life. Whatever you do with your money is your decision. Again, nobody is giving any financial advice here. These are principles, and you have a right to hear people's experiences and people's knowledge. No government has a right to stop people from learning about how to do better in life. And that is my goal of this one, is to give you principles that will help you to see the world clearer, to be able to decipher good and bad easier. It's not clear, but you'll have principles now that make it easier to understand. And I guess I'll throw in one last thing that I was going to put in, and that is why I hate day trading, okay? Day trading sucks for people. Why? Goldman Sachs, they have day traders. They have algorithms that day trade. What's the difference? Why would I not like day trading? Day trading can work. Why am I not big on day trading? The reason why is because, now this is not advice. A lot of people I know like day trading. I'm just going to tell you my opinion. And I'm old. And I believe that there are some very truths. And I started this with my most painful experience, which was my day trading. I believe that day trading theoretically could work, but what it requires a set of rules, and it requires handcuffs that would stop you from making the mistake of gambling instead of day trading, but under principles. Okay, so I've heard a million times, day traders will always tell me, before my friends lose their life savings, they always tell me the same thing. They always say, Ronin, don't worry. I am a basing this on principles. I am going to set puts, and I'm going to set prices that I will get out so I can't lose too much, because if it goes down this much, it's going to automatically sell. My human nature cannot fuck me over here, because I will have mathematical principles built into my trading like a machine. And that will allow me to make easy money, right? Because I'll follow these principles. Because as you said, day trading can work as long as you follow the principles, right? And so I'm going to do it. Now, Goldman Sachs succeeds. Day traders do succeed in Goldman Sachs. Well, nowadays it's the algorithm and high-speed automated trading with very fast servers and very fast internet, lightning fast servers next to backbones of the internet to shave off that extra thousandth of a second, millionth of a second. But as a retail investor, please, those, look at it another way. Nick Leeson, he bankrupted Barings Bank in Singapore. How did he do that? Why did one guy bankrupt one of the oldest banks in the world? How? He was trading. He was day trading. Everything's fine. He was following the rules of the bank. No problem. But Nick, unfortunately, was very smart. And so he found a way to hide his losses. But because he was a gambler, and we aren't all human beings, at the heart gamblers, so he found a way to hide his losses. This was his killer. The key with investment banks is they can't hide the losses. That's what makes them so powerful. They have the smartest people, the best software, the fastest computers, the most money, and the least emotion invested because it's not their money, the best principles, and they day trade at very high speed based on very sound principles, and they make a lot of money. It's a money machine. But anytime you bring your human nature in, if you think you're going to day trade with the same intelligence and the same speed and the same knowledge and the same technology as a large investment bank on your own, I just would really question that. So what happened? When a day trader broke the rules of the investment bank and went on his own, he did it secretly. And he kept thinking what every gambler thinks. He's like, I'll make it back and then some. I'm not stealing this money, because what I'm going to do is not only am I going to make it back, I'm going to pay them back plus in the next trade. Oh, I lost a little bit more, but don't worry, because I know what I'm doing. The next trade. And he got further and further off the books and further outside the algorithm, the rules of the bank. And one guy literally bankrupted one of the oldest banks in the world. That's how bad day trading is. Because we're all gamblers at heart. I've seen a lot of addiction in my life. I've seen people who are addicted to many different things. But I'm going to tell you, I personally, in my viewpoint, I'm not a gambler. I've never liked Las Vegas gambling. I lived in Vegas, yeah? You saw my videos. How much do you think I gambled in Vegas? 0 pennies. I didn't gamble anything. Not one single penny. Why? Because I never gamble. I do not gamble. And I will not gamble. I will never gamble. I will never buy a Keno fucking thing, because I decided by walking around Las Vegas back in the old days as a kid, I never wanted to be one of those losers outside the casinos. I never wanted to be that. I saw those guys. I never wanted to be that. So I never, ever got into gambling. And I made a decision to never gamble. Okay? And I have stuck with that. But what tricked me, here's what tricked me, was day trading. Day trading, it was gambling. I never gambled in a casino. Okay? I didn't gamble. Well, I shouldn't say that. I gambled like $100 probably in my life when I went to Vegas in college, right? We were just waiting in line for the fucking, what do you call it? The all-you-can-eat buffet for 99 cents. It cost me $47. I still remember. And that was it. I lost $50. I was like, fuck this. I was right. Never gamble. And I never gambled since. I gambled in line probably back in, 86, 85. Gambled $50. So I can't say I never gambled. But anyway, so after that, I made a decision to never gamble. And I saw a lot of gamblers. But what I did was I started to day trade, and that was what I lost all of my life savings in one night in 1999 because I didn't realize I was gambling. It was a gambling with a different face, a happier face. The stock market and Peter Lynch, and he wasn't a gambler, but I saw his face. But behind it was the evil. You will lose. The house always wins. Mathematics, not with you, not as I've talked about this whole fucking episode, having the fundamental principles behind you, but the principles be not supporting you, but eroding you. Eventually, they will win. They will take everything you have. And that's what I didn't know. I didn't realize that looking at the same securities account could go from the very best principles to the very fucking worst overnight. And they did for me. And I learned my lesson. And I pray, I hope that somebody, even if everybody doesn't listen to this episode and doesn't implement, I hope that one person does not have to go through what I went through when I went on that short period of day trading. Because as with gamblers, no matter how much money you make, no matter how many billions you make, it all goes to zero. That's the problem. It's unlimited on the upside, but the downside is always the same. Destitute. And if anything I said today will help you to somehow sidestep this fundamental principle, bad fundamental principle, and to latch onto the good fundamental principles, the principles that will help you, okay? The principles that will lead you up, the principles that will make you feel better about yourself, that will give you a brighter future. They're not perfect, and just like the bad one, they're not a straight line. And you might not recognize them, but once you hear all this and process this, you will start to know the difference between good principles and bad principles. And I hope this has been a useful one. If this is interesting, and if you feel you are ready to become a different person, a person who has never had money but wants to have money, a person who's never been a winner but wants to be a winner, implement the ideas that I talked about. The saving, the dollar cost averaging, the way of looking at investments, the way is looking at yourself, the way is looking at gambling, your weaknesses. Pack them up in a package and go make money over time. Okay? And let me know in a couple of years. If you want somebody who can help you, you're always welcome to join Unblackmailable. I want you to succeed. I want you to avoid the pain that I went through. And I want to read your happy stories as time passes, because this one here is very, very, very big. Okay, I made this one on an email or a Telegram message from Carlos in Texas. So this one's for you, Carlos.